Hello dear viewers, a very warm welcome to our channel. Today we are diving into a very crucial topic for all car owners, the starter motor. If you have ever experienced trouble starting your vehicle, you might be dealing with a faulty starter motor. So, stick around to uncover the top symptoms of bad starter motor. First up, the most obvious sign, your engine won't crank. When you turn the ignition key and hear nothing, it could be your starter motor failing to engage. So, the first symptom of a faulty starter motor is no response at all from the starter motor side when you turn the ignition key to the start position. Next, you might hear a clicking noise when you try to start your car. This often indicates that the starter is trying to engage, but there is no cranking. This is another symptom of bad starter motor. So it seems the solenoid is engaging because you hear the clicking sound, but the engine is not turning over. So the second indication of bad starter motor is clicking noise, but no cranking. This often indicates that there is something wrong inside the starter motor, and probably the solenoid switch is doing its job. Solenoid might be fine. Symptom number 3, intermittent starting. If your vehicle starts sometimes, but not some other times, it is a clear sign that your starter motor may be on its way out. This intermittent starting is very frustrating, especially if you are stranded somewhere. You hope the vehicle will start after so many attempts, and that is a little bit challenging. So intermittent starting is another indication of bad starter motor. Number 4, dim light on the dashboard. If your dashboard lights dim out significantly when you try to crank your engine, that indicates that the starter motor is probably drawing too much current. If the starter motor is drawing too much power, almost all the power will be directed to the starter motor, and that will lead to deficiency of voltage or deficiency of electrical current to the remaining vehicle circuits. This usually happens when there is some short circuit inside the starter motor that could make the starter motor draw too much electric current. So dimming out of the dashboard light could be an indication of bad starter motor. Number 5, burning smell. If you happen to detect unusual odor, especially after repeated attempt to start, it could indicate some overheating component inside the starter motor. If power is supplied continuously to the starter motor gear, it will eventually overheat. Smoke usually indicates that too much power is being drawn through the electrical supply. This is either due to a starter motor short circuit, starter motor internal problem, or some connection problem. Smoke coming from underneath the engine accompanied by a burning smell can be a symptom of a serious short circuit or serious problem within the starter motor. So burning smell or visible smoke coming out of the starter motor could be an indication of a starter motor trouble. Number 6, if your engine cranks very slowly, it might be struggling due to a failing starter motor. A healthy starter motor should crank quickly and smoothly. But if you happen to have a very slow, sluggish cranking, then that indicates a starter motor problem. Please also remember that this can sometimes be related to dead battery. If the battery is not strong enough, that can lead to slow cranking. But slow cranking can be an indication of starter motor problem. Number 7, unusual noise from under the hood as you try to crank. If you happen to notice that there is some grinding or whining sound coming from the starter motor side, it could be an indication of bad starter motor. When the starter drive gear is worn out or not engaging properly, it will often produce a grinding noise. This is similar to that noise you hear when you accidentally try to crank an already started engine. So if the grinding symptom is ignored, It may also result in damage to the flywheel teeth, ring gear, or it can lead to damage of the starter motor pinion teeth. So grinding noise should not be taken lightly, it should be taken seriously. So unusual noise is another symptom of bad starter motor. If you notice that the starter motor gets unusually hot after attempting to start the vehicle, this is a clear indication of a starter motor trouble. Always remember, frequently attempting to crank the engine can lead to a starter motor overheating, but without any frequent starter motor cranking attempt, if you happen to notice that the starter motor is running hot, that indicates there is some electrical short circuit or some problem within the starter motor that needs to be addressed. Freewheeling is another problem that is associated with the starter motor. Freewheeling occurs when you crank the engine and simply hear a whining noise without no engine cranking. When this occurs, it means the starter motor is not engaging with the flywheel. This is a worrying situation which could result in having to replace the whole starter motor. If this happens, service your vehicle as soon as possible. So you try to crank, you hear that you hear the starter motor is turning, the motor is spinning, you hear the spinning, but the engine is not cranking, the engine is not turning over. So that is what we call freewheeling. The pinion is running, the starter motor shaft is spinning, but it is not engaging to the flywheel ring gear, so the engine is not turning over. That type of problem, we call it freewheeling. So if you happen to notice that your starter motor is freewheeling, it is also an indication of bad starter motor. The other problem is starter motor stays on after you have started the engine. When you start the engine and release the ignition key, cranking should immediately stop. But if the starter motor stays on after the engine has ignited, after you have released the ignition key, that can be a problem with the solenoid. If the solenoid contact points are somehow arcing and welded together and they will remain in a closed position, that can make the starter motor to continue cranking after the engine is started. If this problem is not addressed immediately, it can lead to total damage of the starter motor, because once the engine is started, the engine will start driving the starter motor and the starter motor will start spinning at extremely high speed, and that can cause failure of the entire starter motor. So starter motor staying on after the engine is started is another indication of trouble within the starter motor. And finally, batteries. Batteries are sometimes responsible for cranking related problem. Always remember that cranking requires large power supply. It requires large current supply to the starter motor. If you suspect the battery is in trouble, try starting your vehicle by jumper battery. So dear viewers, these are some of the top symptoms indicating a faulty starter motor. If you are experiencing any of these issues, it's best to consult a professional mechanic before you find yourself stranded. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification for more car mechanic tips. Thank you for watching and drive safely. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video, please smash the like button so that you will be notified whenever we come up with another new video. Till then, stay safe.